Breaking news! This chart is right now doing something so scary, so downright dangerous. It is changing how I think about my own body. And it's not even Bitcoin. However, the Bitcoin data that is being printed right now could end up being even bigger than anyone could have ever imagined in a trillion years. Right now, the price of Bitcoin is absolutely still sideways, but up a itsy-weensy, teensy-weensy little bit here. But specifically, we have like 5 massive Bitcoin charts to look at. But more importantly, we're going to be looking at a chart that isn't Bitcoin, and we'll start there first. So over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a little bit of a dumpy downtrend for the stock market. Specifically right now, however, the SPX is testing for support. One of its largest levels going all the way back to the summer of 2021, right before the massive blow-off top that we saw with the SPX. So it was maximum gainers confirmed. But right now we're testing a very big level. And so ultimately, Bitcoin doesn't always follow the stock market. However, it does like over 90% of the time. And basically, if the stock market, which as of today, it's bouncing a little bit right here. If the stock market can bounce here, that's good for Bitcoin, I believe. If it falls through this, which if it would, I think it would not happen immediately. I think it would take a little time. But if it would fall through that, look out below, basically, right? So we're looking at this chart. If you go all the way back to July, the summer, June, July of 2021, we initially broke that for the very first time and got above 4,300. We held it for support as well in October, which then ultimately gave us our final bounce up to the all-time high of the SPX, around 4,800. We tested it numerous times for support then, back in March as we were falling. We failed to break through it here. We saw resistance in May. This is exactly where we got rejected in August of 2022. Right here, massive dump afterwards. And this is our very first time, after breaking above it back in the summer of this year, just a couple of months ago, this is our very first time testing it since then yet again. And so really, if we go to the 5-day chart, it's pretty obvious that this is a very big pivot level for the stock market. And strength has to be found here. Otherwise, it could get pretty dumpy. So let's actually take a look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin itself is up a little bit today, but most importantly, it's doing something on the daily chart. So we look at TechDev here. He's talking about a 3-prong signal, which preceded each of Bitcoin's 4 all-time high-setting runs. The break above the 20-month moving average, a monthly MACD bull cross, and a monthly Vortex bull cross. All monthly signals, right? Usually, if you look at the monthly, basically the most important, significant, long-standing time frames to look on, whereas the minute chart, the 15-minute, nobody cares. These are monthly signals, though. And of global liquidity proxy, which oscillates, he said, a 3.5-year cycle. It's also a log growth trajectory. And if you take a look here, this basically is a bullish signal. Now, if we look also at this, Titan of Crypto pointing out the money supply. Each time the M2 money supply indicator, which indicates the amount of money that's circulating, goes negative, it means the monetary creation is lower than it was the year before. And that happens when Bitcoin is at its bottom. And this has happened. It happened around 15K when we dropped down months and months ago, towards the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. But basically, when this happens, Bitcoin is at its bottom. Given the number of Bitcoin is limited, as you all know, if the monetary creation keeps increasing in our economy, which obviously it will, then you'll inevitably need more dollars to buy Bitcoin, which is a nice way of saying price go up. But it's not all pickles and rainbows, because take a look at this chart. Long-term resistance line for Bitcoin looks like a massive rejection is very likely here. However, what a switcheroo. This is actually an inverted chart, which actually means pumpy potentially coming. Right, this is made so that you can psychologically see, because if you're watching this video and you're very bearish on Bitcoin and you hate everything that I'm saying, and then I talk about this, you're like, see, I told you this is going to be a big dump. But that's where the switcheroo happens, because it's actually inverted. This chart is upside down, basically meaning support along this long-term trend line. Stock Money Lizard's also just posting a simple chart about his pre-halving target right around 50K, with that kind of happening towards the very beginning of 2024, according to his chart. If similarities exist from the past, Could be interesting. This one I'm not as sure about as all the other charts that I talked about. This is just, I guess, maybe his opinion. I don't necessarily, so I guess I could talk about my opinion. Do I think Bitcoin will hit 50K before the halving in about 7 or so months? That's a good question. I would say no, probably. I think, as we get closer and closer to having like the 1 to 2 months hype leading up to the halving, it's possible. So we're talking like February-ish of 2024. Now it is 100% possible if we actually get a Bitcoin spot ETF approval at any time in that, during this pre-halving period. Absolutely. If we would get Bitcoin spot ETF approvals, I think that, name your price target. As long as it's not totally insane, I think it's very possible. And then also CryptoCon talking about this. People are split on whether or not Bitcoin needs to visit lower prices before continuing higher. On the logarithmic regression curves that call the last cycle top, price remains just below layer 4. Sometimes price is able to bottom just below a regression layer, but if it's not, it usually means return to a lower one. It has never not retested layer 1 during a cycle. And what he's saying is September is usually the worst Bitcoin month, but it continues to actually hold up well this month so far. And we came into September with everyone knowing September is historically very bad for Bitcoin. But if we actually look at what has happened during the month of September for Bitcoin, it has gone up a little bit. That's it. It's gone up maybe $1,000 if you measure from like the lowest point of the month. So basically nothing. It hasn't really done anything, but that's better than getting completely dumped on. However, as I tweeted the other day, I would prefer to get dumped on at this point than to just keep trading sideways. It's so boring. Taking a look at Bitcoin's daily chart as well, this key moving average, we are now still trying to hold above the 21-day moving average, this green line here. We spent all of the entire second half of August, the entire first half of September, an entire month just below it. So there is a chance momentum can pick up. We're about to see actually the 21 potentially cross above the 50-day moving average in blue, the green and blue here, which when we got this bearish cross, the very beginning of August, August 2nd to August 3rd, Bitcoin did go from 29,500 down to 23,600, depending on which exchange you're looking at. Now, it's a very big crunch time as well on Bitcoin's weekly chart between two massive moving averages. Here, the 50-week and the 200-week moving average. 50-week is below. This was a bearish cross here. However, as you can see, price has really only gone up since we got that bearish cross. Why? Because usually these longer-term moving averages are lagging indicators. And by the time we get these scary death crosses and really bad crosses, the worst has already happened very often. Now, looking at the DXY, we're still actually maintaining an uptrend ever since the middle of July. So we're going on almost 2.5 months of an uptrend for the DXY. As it has now broken above 105, next target is around like 108.5. If it's I don't see huge resistance up until it gets to that level. So that could be interesting as well for these charts. Looking at Bitcoin, obviously on longer term charts, it's very clear, depending on which time frame and what you're looking at. Honestly, I guess you could say it's not very clear. We're getting so many mixed signals. A lot of the longest indicators are showing us, Bitcoin's going to pump over the next 6+ months very clearly, like if you look on monthly charts. But then ultimately, if you look at some of these 5-day or 15-day charts, it looks still a little more bearish. But really, I keep going back to this chart, but it means everything. This box is 30 to 31K. This box is 22 to 24K. We have been trading within it since the entire year of 2023, actually. So if I would really summarize this entire first 9 months of 2023, we have just been trading sideways, ultimately. We've been in the same range. Of the last few years, there was not a time where we spent basically an entire year just in one range, unless you go back to the previous bear market. So of this 4-year cycle, this, in my opinion, and as the data has shown, is basically the most boring period of a 4-year cycle. So if you are bored right now, it makes sense. I'm extremely bored. I tweeted the other day, I look at these charts still every day, but I don't actually comprehend them because my brain doesn't care. I look at it and then I don't even like read the number because it's probably still 26,000. And so far it's been correct. And so I'm just numb to it. But yeah, I mean, this is the most boring part. If you survive this, you can survive any Bitcoin price action because this mind-numbing price action truly, it's just horrible. Yeah, but with that being said, as long as we're still holding 25, there's nothing to be concerned about in the short term. And ultimately, definitely watching the SPX. If we go back to the daily chart, yeah, a strong bounce here is definitely needed. Getting back above 43.40 is potentially promising, but there's probably going to be some resistance there considering we bounced there multiple times over the past 3 months during this also sideways trading price action. And taking advantage of massive sign up and deposit bonuses if you're interested in trading using my links to Femex and BitGet below. If you specifically click my links and sign up, create an account on Femex or BitGet below with my link under the video description. It takes about 30 seconds. Then you'll get access to a lot of bonuses and you earn free XPT when you trade anything with Femex. And without further ado,